Hey everybody, good evening. Good evening. Happy Tuesday. I didn't even think about it. I saw on the interweb that Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday all on the same day. How about that? That's pretty wild. Ren Sense, hey, how you doing? Ryan, hey man, how you doing? I see the chat going. Yeah, so uh, happy Tuesday again. Just got some stuff to show tonight. Didn't I'm working on a tech segment, so we're going to kind of do like part one tonight. The second part will probably be in a week or two because I have to get the parts together to finish that out. Um, well, actually, that's true on two different subjects. But yeah, we're trying to right now in the shop. I'm some fabrication stuff right now, and stuff like that. So nothing super techy in the shop. So obviously we want to get back into technical stuff. Got the brakes working on the Buick. Pretty much did a once over the entire car, so now it's ready to start driving. So Fab is cool too. Yeah, you're right. Thanks. So yeah, so we'll probably next week we'll probably do some Holly stuff. I'll hopefully have the Buick running up and down the highway, and we'll get some of that stuff going. Let me turn down the speakers here. So anyway, had a new project dropped off. We're not gonna get on it right away, but got a Chevelle that got dropped off for wiring and plumbing. So that's something we're gonna get into in the future. We're gonna go ahead and do the first for us, the first one for a ZR1 cooling system fan that pulse width modulated by the Holly ECU. So that should be pretty cool, getting that all ironed out. So Dave's car, we've pulled the trigger, so we got it. His Chevelle, we got it. Dominator ECU, dual drive-by-wire throttle bodies, and low car pedal. So that'll be coming up in the future. We'll show you how to do all that stuff, get that all operating. It's something that not a lot of people. Some people do it and some people don't, but it's a little different. There's no IAC control in a drive-by-wire scenario, so you have to actually work on pedal position and rate of change in your TPS and stuff like that to make that all work out right. So I'll go over that stuff, and it'll be interesting. I've done many drive-by-wire on a single throttle body, but on a dual throttle body, I'm expecting it to be a little bit trickier because you've got double the blade, double the surface area. So that may take a little tuning time to get that all straightened out, but we'll go ahead and get into that in the near future. So right now we have a Dana 60 differential in the shop. I'm going to show you the teardown tonight. I think I showed the picture of it last week, assembled. So it actually belongs to my buddy Steve Brightman, his son Connor. Connor's got a really good detailing business. Really, good kid. I think he's 19, maybe 20. 19, I believe. I think he just graduated high school last year. But he's got a really good detailing business going, mobile detailing. Purchased a house. I mean, kid's got it going on. He's got a Malibu race car, street race car, and he blew up the rear end in that. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll show you the tear down on that. I had tried to get parts ordered before, but we had to figure out what carrier that was. So now I know which series spool carrier it is. Now we can go ahead and get the parts coming, and that's going to actually. We'll talk more about that when we show the video. I don't want to get too ahead of us. And then I can give you guys some updates on Scott's Vega. I've got the manifolds are in, they fit. I got the steering column, steering shaft all done. It's not fully welded and everything, but it's close. But it all works. And working on motor mounts. That'll be another fab job that I'll be showing you guys. Doing from template to cutting the panels out and then putting them together and making it all work out. So that's kind of what has been going on this week. I went down to Miami yesterday to get some aluminum. I got to build a generator cover for the Smurf trailer. So the generator sits on the tongue of the trailer. So I built one for the last generator, but this one's bigger, so I have to build a different box. But I use an aluminum diamond plate and make a nice enclosure for the generator to sit in, kind of keep it out of people's eyes. So nobody, obviously you see a generator, you kind of know what it is, but at least it keeps the honest people honest, and keeps it out of the weather and stuff like that. So while I did that, I also checked on a 91 Corvette that a gentleman wants to swap for my open trailer. Car's a little rough, but of course I'm only, I'm asking $3,000 for my trailer. So I mean, obviously you can imagine if the car's in the $3,000 area, it's going to need some work. So I still haven't totally made my mind up whether we're going to pull the trigger on that. I need another project, like a hole in the head, but in a very, very near future, I'm going to be putting my dually up for sale, and so I could use something to drive. And if I can get this thing running pretty easily, it could be a nice little toy and something to drive in the meantime. So it did run when I went down and looked at it. It just needs some cleanup work and stuff like that. So I think I could get it running pretty easily and not have to take a bunch of time out of the shop. But I do have the clock is kind of ticking on both getting this Buick done and getting Scott's Vega done, and trying to get T5's Regal back in the shop. You guys saw that a couple of years ago. It got wrecked, and then it was a little bit of a process getting it fixed, and now it just needs to come back for a little bit of wiring and a little bit of putting some tabs and stuff like that, and checking the setup and stuff, make sure it's ready to go to the track. So I need to get that worked in here. And again, we got a couple weeks ago. Sorry, I got something in my eye. We got rained out on the with Papa Smurf in the small block A-League shootout, and so that race is coming up next weekend. So got that coming up. So I've got quite a bit of stuff going on in the near future. Unfortunately, all this is delaying Project Vet Hawk to get back in the shop, but hopefully we'll be able to get that back in the shop soon. Hey Chuck, how you doing? I was kind of hoping to have something rolling by LS Fest, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's just too much stuff to get done on the Vet Hawk to get into that project. So, we'll see what happens with that. Let me go ahead and open this up. So, I did it again. So that's kind of what's been going on. It's been kind of hectic around here. Thursday, I'm going up to do some chassis certs north of where I am. So that's going to take me out of the shop and get that handled. And of course, Mother's Day is coming up, so we're going to be out of town for the weekend for that. So trying to juggle everything and get it all done. And actually, Benji, the new shop inspector, he turns 1 year old on the 19th, so that's coming up too. So see how this all pans out this month. Time is flying by. So anyway, let's let's go ahead and I'll start this out with the Dana 60 rear end. So here's the rear end as it came in the shop. I think I showed this picture last week. Ladder bar car in a G-body Malibu. The car was built many, many years ago, and when Hot Rod Mess was here, they're friends of the Brightmans, so they all went to Immokalee for. They were here on a Friday. They went to Immokalee on a Saturday or Sunday, I forget, and broke the rear end in the car. So here's a little. That's a picture of it. And I got a little video. Let me draw this up. All right, so we get this. Okay. So here's a little teardown video I'm starting. Of course, this will all get pieced into a complete build video once we get that. But again, you know, you guys come on the live show, you get to see the stuff before anybody else gets to see it. So here's the little video on the teardown. All right, so we get the Dana 60 here today. We're gonna go ahead and rip this thing apart and see what's going on with it and show you all the ins and outs. And then when we get the new parts, we'll put it back together. I'll show you how to do that. All right, well, you can see here we got a big problem. The carrier cap is broken, and that then allowed the ring gear to walk out of the pinion head, and it tore the heck out of the gear set. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing all tore down and figure out exactly what we need to replace, and we'll go from there. It's not how you do safety wire. Okay, finally got it. That's a mess. No. For you guys, whenever you got lug nuts going on, especially aluminum lug nuts, these studs need to have never sees on them. These do not, and it's a mess. Okay. Can't believe they Loctited this stuff in. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. All right. Alright, so we finally got the bolts out of here, of the axle flanges. Somebody's gotten crazy with the red Loctite, as in the calipers also. So we had to do a little work to get them out, but now we can go ahead and continue our teardown. We got to knock these backing plates off again. They got crazy with the, wow, they really got crazy with the red Loctite. Everything's glued together. Alright, well, we're going to have to do something different here. Get a couple of these bolts out and see if we can get this thing apart. I don't know when the last time I seen one put together like this before. Wow. These are going to have to be cleaned up because they're full of Loctite. That doesn't need to be done for these. Take the axles out. You can use a slide hammer. If the housing is bent, you'll have to really hit them hard. This wasn't too bad, even with the carrier out of place. Came apart pretty easy. You always want to look at your splines. Make sure the splines are straight. If there's no twist there, that would show that there's an axle starting to go bad. These look fine. Crazy amounts of Loctite on this stuff. There's nothing wrong with using Loctite, but when you try to paint it red with Loctite, it's a little overboard. Just need a drop. You're going to have axles ordered. The thing to do is you can have them have a axis hole drilled into the flange, and then you can get a gun on these and you don't have to use a hand wrench like this. Okay, so we got our plates off, get our axle bolts out. Again, look at our spline to make sure that there's no twist. It looks like it's pretty clean. We're good. Okay, so now we're ready to take the chunk out of the rear end. So here's the problem. Cap broke off. These are kind of very common on these. There's not very much material right there. So what happens when the car leaves the starting line, the yoke twists, and the ring gear has to do one of two things. Either it has to spin or it tries to walk away from each other. Well, this rear end did not have a stud girdle on the back of it, so all these years it's been the ring gear has been trying to walk away from the pinion, and eventually it cracked this carrier cap, and that's what broke this rear end. So when we put it back together, we'll put a aluminum girdle cover on it. It'll actually have a stop screw that goes against the center of the cap to help support the load on that cap. Plus this cap we're going to have to replace with a Mark Williams piece because this is broken. We're not going to be able to use this anymore. Over the years, I've seen people try to make caps or straps out of 1/4-inch plate and stuff, but it just doesn't work. The best bet is to put a girdle on it or put heavy-duty caps on it. So let's get this other one out. This is what it's supposed to look like. I don't see any cracking on this one, so I think we're going to be fine. We can just put one in there. Okay, there was a problem right there. you see I was able to remove this carrier without too much effort. So there's not enough side load on these bearings. So let me pull this out. As you can see, this ring gear is tore up pretty bad. But what I'm saying about side load, you have a tapered wheel bearing. So the amount of load pushing the caps together is also how much load it has on the bearing. When the rear end, when this carrier pulled out loosely like that, that shows that there wasn't enough load on here. It's just like a front wheel bearing. If you just turn it finger tight to the last cotter pin hole, put the wheel on, you can wiggle the wheel front and back. There's not enough load on the bearings. You can burn a bearing up that way. What you really want to do is tighten that castle nut up until you get just before you get drag on it, and that's where you want it to go. And then when you put your wheel in, you can grab top and bottom and it'll be tight. Same with these. These need to have a little bit of load on them so that the carrier doesn't try to walk out of there. That bearing actually looks okay. Now we'll go over the bearings in a minute. So now we got that all apart. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the carrier, the pinion out of it, and then we can go over all this stuff here. Alright, so here's our carrier, our pinion head, and now you can see how it tried to push the ring gear out to where the gears could skip over, and then it started snapping teeth off. So that's what tore this thing up. So again, on these, you have these shims that go on here, just like a crush sleeve or a solid spacer, and that is to set the load of these two tapered bearings. So all these bearings should have drag when they're completely assembled correctly. So now that we got everything apart, we can see that our ring gear is tore up. You can see how this was trying to walk away from it. That's what broke all this up. So now we're going to go ahead and get the races out of here, and then we can go over all the parts and see what we need to order to fix this thing. Okay, so now we have all the bearings out of it, so now we can go over it. Here's a nice tip for you. This odd-shaped chisel is made for pushing bearing races out, because it can sit in the casting and catch the edge of the race and drive it out. So if you're going to do some rear end work, these aren't a bad thing to have. You can knock your races out and be able to set it all up. Also, behind this rear bearing is another clutch pack. This is clutch stack. This is how we set our pinion depth when we go back together. So, and then we have on the ends of this, which this is actually tight. Down here you have shims behind these bearings, and that's how you get your side load on it. Now normally I like to hone this spool so that these slide on halfway easy. That way it's easy to change the stuff. So let me go ahead and get cleaned up, and then we'll come back and we'll look at all these races and see what we need to order. Okay, so we have the rear end completely apart. Obviously, we can see we need a ring gear and a pinion. We're going to need one cap. The bearings don't look that bad. At least that one doesn't. You can see this. But on this one, you look real close here, you can see little dimples in the race. That's where the race is starting to come apart. so this rear pinion bearing definitely has to be replaced. And of course, we're going to replace the carrier bearings because they took a lot of abuse and they were trying to walk out of the race. So as I said, these shims go behind this rear race. That is to center the pinion head in the differential. These shims here go on in front of the front bearing. That sets your preload. And then these shim stacks here are on either side of the spool or differential behind these bearings, and that sets up the location of the ring gear in conjunction with the pinion head, otherwise is known as backlash, and also sets the preload on these tapered bearings. So again, these are tapered bearings, so if they're not in tight, that allows the bearing to walk around in there and can cause a lot of issues, noise, and other things. So now that we have this thing all apart, we're going to have to do a complete cleanup on it. We're going to get some new axle seals, a new pinion seal, a bearing kit, a ring and pinion, and one carrier strap, and we'll be able to put this thing back together. So next time you see this, we'll be going back together. All right, so that was a little video that's going to be, eventually it'll be a complete Dana 60 build video that I'll be putting out in the future. So one of the things about the tapered bearing and preload, when you set up the pinion, it's kind of easy to figure out because you can put a meter, a torque wrench on the pinion nut, which I would go ahead and show when we put it back together. But you want about 30 inch-pounds of drag. That tells you that the bearings are tight in the cup like they're supposed to be, and that's what allows everything to work pretty good. Now, the carrier is not so easy to measure that, so we typically will try to just figure out how much load it takes to put that assembly in. Should be probably about a 5,000 to 8,000 press fit. So normally you have to take a pry bar to get it apart. So that's, those are the kind of things we'll go over when we're putting it back together. That race punch is really handy to have in the shop because you can change your, makes it really easy to change rotor races or drum hub races, and of course in the differential, anywhere where you have a tapered a bearing race that's in a case, that tool is really good for getting it out. You can use a regular round punch, but the surface area of the round punch is so small, it's a little bit harder to get the races out where that's at a nice wide footprint and works really well. See, Kenny Turbo Jixer's in. Hey man, how you doing? So yeah, so that rear end was destroyed pretty bad. Now, Mark Williams does make carrier caps for the Dana 60 12 bolt and 8.8 Ford rear ends. I was surprised at that because typically that has to sorry, Van Halen. You have to typically that would have to be line honed or line bored, but reading the instructions, I guess the caps are fairly close. So what they do is they give you a little slop on the bolt. You get the carrier, the cap to line up at the parting edges, and then you read the opening, and then you take the cap in a rod cutting machine, a rod resurfacing machine, and you take a couple thousandths off the cap surface until the cap fits on and it has the right ID to hold the carrier races tight. So it's the first time I've seen that, but when I saw this, I knew we had to do some kind of fix for that, and that seems to be the fix. So it'll be interesting to do that. I'll try to get some video when we do when we cut the rod cap and do that stuff. So that'll all be coming up in a future video. It'll probably be 2 weeks or so, and I'll show you. I'll do another one with the putting it together. Of course, I'll put the whole thing together for a regular content video on the channel. But you know, like I said before, you guys always get the see stuff in the raw or up front, you know, before anybody else gets to see it. So with that, we'll move on to Scott's Vega. Give you guys the update on where we're at with that. Let me cue this up. Okay, so we were able to get the Holly or Hooker, same company, Hooker manifolds. I took a wild guess. Well, we took a guess first on the first set of manifolds. They didn't fit, but I looked through the catalog and I saw these S10 swap manifolds, and they looked a lot better, like they were going to fit. So we got them when I ordered them. They weren't in stock, but they got them to us quickly. And so here's a little video on updates on Scott's Vega. All right, a little update on Scott's Vega. We got the mock-up engine in there. We've got our Holly S10 swap headers, manifolds, which are fitting in there perfectly. We have our steering complete. Working out great. Got plenty of room in there between the manifold and the steering arms. Rotates super smooth. Got our angle finder making sure the engine's level, side to side, and proper angle going uphill. Now we're working on motor mounts. There's just some other looks on these S10 swap headers that from Holly. They fit in there really nice, like they were made for a car. There's the other side. Kind of hard to see the collector back there, but it fits right in the pocket. Got plenty of room with the steering shaft going down to the steering rack. Working out really well. Here's the underside. There's the passenger side outlet. Plenty of room around everything. There's our driver's side outlet. Of course, we got the speedo cable and the clutch lines in the way, but those aren't mounted up to anything right now. But once again, the collector outlet is perfect. It's just going to be very easy to get the exhaust down through there. Won't interrupt with the oil filter, which the old setup did. And it's going to be great. All right, so here's our first go around with the motor mounts. I actually made a template to match the sheet metal down here. Don't really like the shape. I think we're going to go ahead and just make a triangle. Then we have our C5 Corvette motor mounts. They're going to hook to the LS stock car mount. And they're going to sit right in there like that. And going to line up and mount to the motor mounts. And then I'll get some gusseting in there. So that's going to be the next go around. Here we'll get those all cut and fitted. There's the plate for this. So that's what we're working on next. So that's the updates on that. Yeah, I made the paper templates to match the motor mount support that's on the unibody of the Vega, and once I cut it out, I didn't look like I didn't like the way it looks. I'm going to go ahead and just make a triangle out of it. Hey Johnny Rocket says those look like air ride bags. Looks great. Seems like the H bodies are a little tight. Yes, they are, Ryan, for sure. You did a better job by putting a different frame in. So my buddy Scott is he's a great guy, but he is very, very sensitive to everything, and kind of, even though he's not hands-on, he is a, I don't want to say, a hoarder, but he is a I would say, engineer for his car builds. He likes to do the research. He likes to figure out when things aren't going to work right, or he kind of comes up with 3 or 4 ideas before you even, like a motor mount. He'll bring in 3 or 4 motor mounts and says, "Hey, I think we can make one of these work." Not actually knowing how to put hands on and make them fit. And all of his cars, you guys look on the channel. He's got a '64 Vet on a C4 chassis. He's got the Pontiac '63 Pontiac Le Mans, which is a Y body car before the A bodies, so it's a unibody car, and he has a complete C5 drivetrain underneath that. That car originally came. John DeLorean designed those cars back in the '60s, and they had a Corvair transaxle in it. So when he bought that car, he wanted to put a transaxle back in, so he did a C5 Corvette chassis under there. So that's kept the transaxle alive. So like his MO is he likes to make the car engineered like if GM had done it, but currently, so using current stuff. So even like this Vega, he wants the LS engine in it, but he wants it to fit like an engineer thought about it and just not thrown in with a bunch of hodgepodge parts and stuff like that. And he's very sensitive to vibrations and noises and stuff like that. So it's got to operate like a showroom factory built vehicle. So none of his cars do we ever put polyurethane motor mounts or transmission mounts in. It's way too stiff. So knowing that, I decided, well, why don't we put a C5 oil-filled motor mounting? You're not going to get anything more cushion and more anti-vibration than a oil-filled bath-style motor mount. So it's a pretty big piece, but it's going to fit in there nice. So to step back one, where the factory mounts sit in the car, the overkill front suspension and rack and pinion steering that goes in the car. When Justin Overkill made those, he made them for race cars with front and mid engine mounts in a drag car or something like that. That's typically who would want to put a rack and pinion in the car. Well, Scott liked the idea of the tubular K member, and then later on he saw with the small block, and the drag link was dragging on his oil pan and stuff. So he's like, "Oh, let's go to rack and pinion." He knew that Overkill Products made that deal, so he bought the rack. And then when I was going to install it, we saw that the output shaft or the input shaft of the rack is aiming right at the factory motor mount location on the Vega car. So obviously that wasn't going to work. I was going to go ahead and build a mount and a header for the driver's side to go around the steering column. But later on, as time progressed, he thought, why don't we do an LS swap in it, so it's another car we can take to LS Fest. And of course, his Vet and his Le Mans both are LS powered, and he's like, these things drive so good. The Vet doesn't have quite as many miles on it as his Le Mans, but his Le Mans is getting close to 20,000 miles on that car. So, he's driven that car from South Florida to Chicago to Pennsylvania to Carlisle. We've been to Columbus. We've been all over the southeast United States, or the eastern United States, going to car shows and events with it. He loves the way that car drives, and obviously it's on a complete C5 suspension, so it's a well set up car. So fast forwarding, when I went to do the LS swap, I knew I was going to not be able to use a set of swap mounts that there's a couple people that make. I don't know how good they are, but nevertheless, I knew that we weren't going to be able to use anything that was off the shelf, because I had to work around the steering column issue. So in my NASCAR Phillips number 7 car, I used these All-Star motor mounts, stock car motor mounts that are for an LS engine, and they put the engine mount way forward in the front of the engine. which was perfect for this situation, and it gave us plenty of room for this big oil bath motor mount. So that's kind of how that whole deal came. It is a pretty big mount for what we're looking for, but it's going to work really good. And being a factory GM mount, I know that I won't have an issue with Scott with vibrations or anything, because if it was good enough for GM, it's going to be good enough for him. So anyways, that's kind of how that whole thing is come around. Just like the TKX transmission that's in the car. The car had a TKO 500 in it, but those transmissions were designed in the late 90s, early mid 90s. They were a upgraded replacement for the T5s and the Fox body Mustangs and the S197s, and that was at the end of Borg Warner and the beginning of Tremec, and Tremec purchased Borg Warner's transmission business, and those transmissions weren't quite engineered as nice as they are nowadays. So the shifter was always very notchy in that, and that drove Scott crazy. Nothing wrong with the transmission per se. It's just a design flaw in that transmission unit. So out with the TKO, in with the TKX, which shifts butter smooth, and it actually handles more power. And this has a case that's designed for 60s and 70s cars, so the transmission fits in the car way better. You can actually put your hands between the top of the transmission and the tunnel, so it fits in the car very, very nice. And it's going to, like I said, it's going to shift buttery smooth. So it's going to be a really nice, upgrade for the car. And things should rip. It's, we're putting a 525 horse LS3 in this thing, so it should rip. So we'll be taking it to Louisville for the street NSRA Nationals in Louisville in August, and then to LS Fest in Bowling Green, Kentucky in September. So anybody that's in those areas or going to those shows, come check us out. We'll be there. Since I probably will not have the Vet Hawk done, I'll probably take Scott's Corvette up there. It's been a couple years since the Corvette was at LS Fest. So we'll probably take those two up there and see how that all works out. But it ought to be a good time. And so we'll continue making progress on that. For instance, is every time I learn something new, my brain deletes something. Don't know how you remember this stuff. It's tough. Like you say, the hard drive is can only handle so much information. Ryan says, never driven a TKX car, putting one in the Capri. Heard they are like butter. Yes, they are. And the other thing is, one of the guys when we were at Nashville, Good Guys, a couple years ago, we were hanging at the Tremec trailer. Of course, the TKX was just coming out, and they had a tractor trailer in the vendor area, and he was showing us the shifting pattern and the shifting controls. It's not really a control, but the way they create the shift plate in the transmission in both the TK, the Magnums, wow, I just lost it. In the 6-speed transmissions and in the TKX, in the gates they have ramps cut on everything, and then on the bottom of the shift handle, they got a little like a rudder, and it's shaped so that when you and we did it on the display model, you can rip it in the second, no problem. Obviously, it's a straight back pattern. But when you go to third, you barely have to make any effort, because the way the ramping is designed, it immediately pushes you into third gear. And then, of course, fourth gear is a straight rip back, and then fifth is the same way. As soon as you start to go forward, the gating in the shift plate makes it go into fifth gear. So you can literally shift the shifter as hard as you want, and it's nearly impossible. If you let the shifter follow the pattern in the shift gate, it's going to go into the next forward gear. Whereas the old cars, T5s were notorious. If you tried to ramrod third gear and just had a little bit of pressure on it, it would go back to first. And they had all kinds of issues with those. And the TKO transmissions, the 500 and 600, again, basically was just a beefed up T5 transmission. So those didn't have that on at all. So so you can really shift the heck out of these. And so we'll see, because I'm going to probably take Scott's car down the quarter mile at LS Fest, and I am fair at shifting. I am not any stick shift drag racer by any means. My buddy Doug can rip a transmission, and he is fast. Even back in the day when we were all running the 5.0s and stuff, he was the one guy that you could see the car going down the track, and the front end would never fall during his shifts. He could shift so quickly and so accurately that the front end would be stretched out, and it wouldn't even drop during the shift. So very, very fast with the shift and very precise. He was very good at it, or is still very good at it. In fact, back before I had a dyno in my old shop, Doug was our dyno. So whenever we would build somebody's car and they were having problems with it, saying maybe it didn't meet their expectations of what was going on, we would have Doug take a rip in the car, and the car almost every time Doug would pick up 3 or 4 tenths from the owner of the car when he drove it, because he just knew what he was doing very good. In fact, he drove the Steeda Steeda Autosports drag car back in the Pro 5.0 days, and then also whenever they were doing magazine articles back in the day when they were down here in Pompano, Doug would always be their test pilot for that stuff. Yeah, Ryan, it will be fun. For instance, is everyone around here uses power glides? Yeah, that's what I've always used, glides, and now of course we're all running turbo 400s and 4L80s. The T56 is what I was referring to earlier. The T56 in my Chevy, my 50 Chevy, was a really good transmission. That was the first stick shift I owned and raced in a long time, and I never missed a gear on the quarter mile. There was some issues autocrossing sometimes when I would try to shift in between very short straightaways. I might have had some issues, and that's one of the reasons why the Vedhawk's going to get a 4L80 in it. The big thing nowadays with the automatics over to 4 speeds and 5 speeds is that we can change the gear ratios pretty easily in those things. A little expensive, but so the automatics are definitely getting as good as a stick shift was, but sticks are still cool. So we'll see how that all pans out in the future. See, Rick's on. Hey, Rick, how you doing? Doug was always able to get a little more out of every car he drove. You're right, Rick. You remember those days. Yeah, he was good, and he just actually he was helping me out with Scott's Vega job. I didn't have time to pull the motor, so he made a deal with Scott. He pulled the motor for Scott, boxed it up, and shipped it out when we sold the 327, and he cut a deal for the TKO, and now that's in his 75 Pontiac Trans Am with a 455 in it. So it's in a nice home now, and he loves having the overdrive. So that worked out really well for all parties. So I wanted to show you guys, this is a new project that came in the shop. My buddy Matt from Tampa brought over a Chevelle. We're not ready to start the program yet, but he was moving warehouses and kind of was in a bind where he was going to put the car. And I went ahead and okayed the car to come over early. He gave me the okay that the car could sit outside. There was no issues with that until I get ready to pull it in. Of course, I was hoping I'd have the Buick completed by now, which is not, but we're getting there. So anyway, show you guys a new project we'll be doing here shortly on the channel. So here it is, and you guys can see. Well, you'll hear all the mess ups in this thing. So we just Chevelle dropped off. I'm gonna do a wiring and plumbing job on it. Pretty good looking car. You see it's has the dash in, but we got to do all the wiring and all the fuel system, ECU, and all that stuff. 30 over 502. Gonna have Holley Terminator X fuel injection on it. Got Holley mid-mount motor mounts, or accessory mounts, mid-mount accessory mounts. These things are so great. It's one casting. It holds all your accessories, no brackets and spacers and crap that you have to go with, and it uses a stock GM water pump, so you can just get an LT4 GM water pump and you're back on the road if it starts leaking. But just works out really well. Hydro boost, nice radiator system on there. We're going to do the ZR1 Corvette pulse width modulated cooling fan in there. But really good looking car. But one thing that happened when you get this car here, obviously there's no pedals, there's no brakes, there's no emergency brake, there's nothing. We were rolling it off the trailer and I didn't put a safety strap on. I should know better. We didn't do it. Anyway, so I was rolling off the trailer and the Vet Hawk became a brake to stop the car from rolling. So Chevelle ran into the back of this, broke my taillight, bent a little bit of sheet metal in the hatchback, and worse than that is it pushed the front end up underneath that truck. So luckily there's some small damage to the nose, but it's not terrible. There's Benj inspecting the whole thing, and overall could have been a lot worse. It really isn't that much damage. So always think about safety precautions when unloading cars off trailers. So the trailer was mounted on the Chevelle was on a trailer, but they mounted the car on the trailer off of a lift, so they never rolled it on. We were trying to roll it off the lift with a winch, and the exhaust hung up on the floor because it had never run on and off the ramps. And while we were messing around trying to get enough ramps out of wood to get the car to roll, it came unhooked and rolled off the trailer. So just, you know, luckily nobody got hurt, but a little bit on the Vet Hawk. But we got a new set of taillights found and they're heading our way, and everything else can be fixed. So little shop update, and just a reminder, always have a safety setup on when you're unloading a car, especially when it's with ramps and all kinds of, you know, boards and all kinds of stuff. Need safety setup so nobody gets hurt. Yeah, so Ryan, you're right. Stick shifts are definitely make a hot rod, and wrench sense agrees. My buddy Bubba's got his 32 Highboy small block with a old Kinsler injection or Endley injection on it with a Holley system running it, and it's got a stick shift in it. Man, that car is a lot of fun. The only time they get a little troublesome is on the highway, if you get stuck in traffic accidents and stuff like that, then your left leg will start barking at you from having to ease the clutch in and out. But they're fun, and I may end up putting a stick shift back in. That may I may put a stick shift back in the Vet Hawk afterwards. One of the main thought processes on that was that when you're racing in autocross tracks, you can't set your gearing up exactly right for each track because they're different. They're made in a parking lot or on a road course or something like that. So when you get there, you have no idea what kind of gearing to do. And like at LS Fest, there's 2 different courses and they're 2 completely different lengths. So you can have your gearing decent for one track, but totally off on the other track. And it's really hard to do any kind of shifting because most of the time between turns is such a short amount of distance that typically, your left foot braking, right foot gas. So now you got to, switch feet to get the clutch in, to get the upshift, the downshift, and get on the brakes going into the next corner. So my thought process was run an automatic with the, with the 4L80 and then with the Holley Terminator or any Holley EFI products, I can put paddle shift on it and shift it on the steering wheel. So I won't have to worry about all that. And that'll make it super easy for when you're stuck on a track that the gearing isn't quite right. So we'll see how all that works out. I'm already thinking that we're going to have to do a gear set in the transmission because the 249 first gear, 149 second gear, it's typically a turbo 400, 4L80, I think is going to be a little steep for taking off on a 200 tread wear tire. I think it's going to cause a lot of spinning. So I think we're going to do maybe a 205 or a 210 first gear. And I think those usually come with like a 135 second gear. So that should help put a little bit more load on the tire to make it have traction better. So we'll see how that works out. Chris says it hurt just looking at it. Yeah, I was sick. I didn't take the cover off the car for almost a whole day. I just didn't even want to look. Luckily, the Chevelle has a big, huge chrome bumper, so nothing happened to it. And again, like I said, nobody got hurt, so that was a blessing for sure. Renson says only problem is that the wife wants to drive, so auto it is. Yeah. My wife actually learned how to drive on a stick shift. When we met, she had a Honda Civic with a 5-speed in it, and she actually is pretty good on the stick shift. But I still think the autos are going to be a lot better. Ryan says the Vet Hawk will be bad with the paddle shift. Yeah, I believe so too. And I agree. I think it's going to be great to for the autocross track to have an automatic in it. If you guys watch the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Series, there was a gentleman that runs a 66 or 67 Chevelle. He came out a couple of years ago and was probably one of the first guys that ran multiple races with that series. And he had an automatic in the car. I think he had a 4L80 in it. And he did quite well with that car and got me thinking about it. I know in the past, I have set up some road race Mustangs. We had a customer years ago that had some kind of leg surgery, knee issue or something. Was an electrician on a job site and messed his knee up pretty bad, and so he couldn't drive a stick shift anymore, and he road raced. So we put an automatic in there, and he did quite well with it. Definitely have to, especially on the road course, definitely have to use a large transmission cooler on it because especially if you start engine braking and downshifting, you're definitely going to have to work on the transmission temperatures and loads. One of the things I'm thinking about doing, so the 4L80 has a lockup in it, and with the Holley, I can control the lockup in any gear I want. So that may be one way of maintaining temperature control. because the torque converter is where most of your heat is going to be built, the slip in the converter. So, that is one of my thoughts, that after it gets into second gear, that the clutch would go into, the torque converter would go into lockup, and now there's no slip, so it's basically a stick shift at that point. Of course, we have to, get the car built and test it and see how the upshift, downshift, and all that would work. But again, with the Holley software, we can write up tables so that when the paddle shift is enabled, that it will disconnect the converter for the shift and then reapply the converter after the shift is made. So that may be one way of making that work. So we'll see. We got quite a few things to work at on that. But of course, we got to get the car built first. So I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. But so that's pretty much what's going on in the shop. I wanted to, you've seen, obviously, if you guys watch the show and see the channel, we do a lot with Holley stuff. I am a Holley certified tuner and also a Holley certified dealer. So if there is ever any Holley products you guys need, email me or call me, and I can hook you guys up with specials for being part of the live show crowd. I definitely can give you guys prices you cannot advertise. So I'll put it that way. And of course, get killer tech support from me. So Ryan says, I sprayed a car for free. I love the value. Well, I appreciate that. I might have to get some airplane tickets for you and have you come down and do it, because I've painted some cars when I was a much younger person. My dad was in the paint and body business. Worked at a Chevy dealership for he worked at a bunch of dealerships and had his own side body shop for many, many years. Did tons of custom car painting and stuff like that. I got into mechanics because I didn't like the tedious sanding and mud work and all that tedious stuff that drove me crazy. So many summers I worked at body shop with him and sanded cars and stuff. And I mean, my dad did all kinds of crazy stuff. He built a frame machine back in the 70s with railroad ties and four-wheel drive winches as the puller and stuff. So he did some pretty cool stuff. You fly out by for sure. Well, that's pretty much all I had tonight. I wish I could have got a little bit more technical stuff on there for you. Obviously, the rear end build is going to have, on the assembly side, we'll have a lot more technical stuff on it. It's kind of a lot like an engine assembly where you have a lot of measuring and a lot of adjusting to do until you get the measurements exactly where you want them and stuff like that. But very cool. It's good to see, even if you don't ever want to rebuild a rear end, it's always good to see how it's done, so you can kind of understand the in and outs of what has to be done to make it work. And of course, the fabrication that I do in the shop and stuff like that. I love fabrication. I may not be the best at it. I'm probably a little bit better of a mechanic than I am as a fabricator, but I try. Unfortunately, one of the things, I know WrenchSense says you guys get into a lot of CAD and stuff like that with the welding and laser cutting and stuff like that. It's something I wish I would have got more involved in. Wish I had more time now to learn it. I'd love to be able to do 3D printing on mock-up stuff and stuff like that. But I will be on the motor mounts. I will, once I get my templates made, then I will look into getting those laser cut so I can replicate them for other people if they want to do an LS swap with the GM mounts. I think that mounting system is going to work pretty sweet compared to the normal small block mounting system that they do. Plus, if you want to do use the Justin Overkill front subframe and rack and pinion deal, you definitely would have to do something like I'm designing, because the steering linkage goes right over top of the factory mount, so that's not going to work. But so I guess we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming out and watching once again. Ryan did say, tonight was 142, so we're only 8 weeks from 150th episode. So pretty wild to think that we've done this that long. What would it be 158 would be 3 years, or just about 3 years. There was a couple times we missed at different times, but crazy to think that we're able to do that for this amount of time, and even crazier to think that I've got something good to say that you guys would come back every week and check it out, and all that. I really appreciate it. Remember, smash the like button, share with your friends, subscribe if you hadn't subscribed. Just as all the other YouTubers can contest that your subscription rate versus viewer rate is only about a third. So that means only about a third of the people that actually watch are actually subscribed to the channel. So, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. It's free. Ain't going to have nothing. You're not going to get junk mail or nothing like that. Yeah, Vincent says, if that, you're right. It's amazing. A lot of people will watch and not subscribe. But if you subscribe, you get bonuses, like you get to see when new stuff drops. Very easy to see on the channel. You can go to subscriptions on the side of your computer, and it'll show you all your subscriptions. And if there's a blue dot on that name, then you know there's something new to go watch. So it's a really good little thing to get involved with, and it helps your creator. More subscriptions, more views, more comments helps the algorithm to tell more people that want to watch the same niche automotive stuff to watch maybe your videos too. So Wrench, I actually got my TV fixed in the shop, and I had your channel on all day today and gave you a thumbs up on all the shows. So go ahead and I'll keep checking other people out, and I hope everybody has a great week. Smash the like button. I'll see you all next week. Let me turn the music on. See you all later. See ya.